Let's bring in Chris Hahn, NewsNation political analyst, to weigh in on this political fallout. Chris, good morning. Thank you for being here. We'll dive right in. Jones and Pearson said their expulsion by the GOP-led House of Representatives was an attack on democracy. What do you say?
Oh, I couldn't agree more. Kind of ridiculous. This was a peaceful protest in the legislature, in the Capitol. Thousands of students who fear for their lives, quite frankly, because of the lax gun laws in Tennessee and, quite frankly, across this country were there. And those lawmakers showed support for their constituents who had just suffered through a mass shooting at a school earlier that week. And for the Tennessee legislature to expel them for that, and quite frankly, make the ridiculously, trollingly racist move to only expel the two African-American lawmakers, but let the white lawmakers stay, is kind of ridiculous. And frankly, it speaks to the reward system in today's political environment. You know, they don't have to go back to a general election electorate to keep their seats. They need to troll their base and make sure that their base is comfortable with what they do, and they will get clicks and rewards for expelling these two lawmakers. It is, quite frankly, shocking to me.
Okay, we want to get to the issue of race in just a moment here. I'm happy you brought that up. So do you believe, it sounds like you don't believe their actions were enough to be ousted by the legislature. What is the threshold for that?
Oh, look, I think if you incite violence in a protest, you should be expelled from anything. In fact, I think there are several members of the United States Congress right now that should be expelled for their roles in January 6th, including Josh Hawley, quite frankly. But I think standing there and supporting protesters, I don't believe that there was anything close to the incitement and violence. There was no violence. Nobody was arrested that day. It is ridiculous. I get that they may have broken a rule and maybe there should have been some sort of admonishment because of that. But I don't believe expelling people and overturning the will of voters is warranted in a situation like that. And quite frankly, if you're going to expel two of the three and you only expel the African-American men, I really have a serious problem with that. I think most Americans who look at that see nothing other than what it is, racism.
All right. So what do you believe the consequences of that will be, Chris, if there was blatant racism, as you say, on display here?
I think short term for the members of that state house, there'll be no consequences because, as I said before, the reward system and the political system, gerrymandering in this country, has made it so they only need to appeal to their base. And if their base supports, their extremist base supports that, then they'll keep going. But I think long term, I think if I'm Marsha Blackburn sitting in the U.S. Senate, I'm worried about Pearson or Jones running against me in 2024 in my first reelection for Senate. You've basically created two national superstars who will have unlimited fundraising potential. And I believe they will absolutely seek higher office as a result of this.
And how do you believe this speaks to the national narrative? You know, we're all watching this. We're looking at this. We're studying this case. So what do you believe other politicians, maybe the public, will take away from this? And do you believe it'll play or that will play into elections here in the future?
Here's the unfortunate truth. This country is gerrymandered to an extreme, and people need to win a primary and not worry about the general election. I think the story that preceded this, the one in Texas, where Governor Abbott is considering pardoning, overruling a jury who found that someone was guilty of murder, speaks to that very same item. They are appealing to an extreme base of their party. This is the problem in America. We don't have a lot of shame anymore in this country. If there were shame in this country right now in politics, those people who voted to expel Pearson and Jones would have also expelled Gloria Johnson. Instead, they said, yeah, we're going to let the white woman stick around. We're going to get rid of these two African Americans. They have no shame. They don't care that people are going to look at them as racist, as long as the base of their constituents will help them win their primaries and go forward. That is a problem in our society across this country, not just in Tennessee. People are playing to extreme corners of their base and not to the general population. I think if they had to worry about a general election in November, they would have thought twice about expelling any of them.
Well, we appreciate your perspective as always. Chris Hahn, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.